Hello everybody. Today we're going to take a look at creating a simple GUI project for an interface so you could actually have people start to interact with your programs and your software that you actually create. And we're going to look at the desktop way to do it today using NetBeans. I'm running version 7.3.1. As of this, I've used 8.0 as well, and everything should work relatively the same. All I've done so far to make sure that you're following along at home correctly is I created a new project, gave it made a standard public static void main class file, and all it does is it doesn't do anything. It just makes a file. That's it. So all of us are going to be starting from the same spot. Okay? So NetBeans is really great. It's actually got an interactive way for you to actually program graphical user interfaces already. So in order to do that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using its native functionality to allow us to actually create these beautiful graphic interface environments that your users can use to work your software. So in order to start one, first thing we're going to do is go to your project, find the package that you created. I created mine GUI demo. So my project was named GUI demo, my package is GUI demo. So I'm going to right click on it. And when you right click on it, you get some options, one of them being new. And under that, I would like to create a JFrame form. Now, if you haven't used that recently, you might have to go to the other to find this. You can look at it under Swing GUI forms, and that's probably where you will find it at, okay? And it's a JFrame form. That is our root frame form. This is going to be the basic thing that we essentially apply all of our graphical looks onto, okay? So I'm going to go ahead next, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to give it my user interface name. And so what it should do is it should create a blank gray little area here. That's our JFrame. We should also have now this palette of things. This is kind of like our tools we can use. And we have a whole bunch of properties listed down here, which we're going to look at a lot throughout the process of this, okay? So we're looking at the design fashion right now. The design fashion is literally this gray box is the size of the window that you're going to get. So, like for instance, right now, if you ever want to look at what you're actually creating and see, wow, what will that look like? There's this little icon that's got an eyeball on it, and if you mouse over it, the tooltip says it's a preview design. If you click on it right now, it actually will preview what you have, which is just a gray box. Okay. So this is where we're going to work mostly in this video. And some other videos, we're also going to take a look at the source here, which auto-generates a lot of code for us. So this code right now doesn't have a lot in it. It will end up having a lot of code in there for us. Okay. So we're going to work in design right now. And so the big things you want to look at is palette. Palette is going to have things that we can add on to our frame. So like labels, like text things, buttons, toggle buttons, you know, those things where you actually it toggles and stays on, then goes off, check boxes, radio buttons, groups of buttons, a combo box, list, progress bars. There's all these things and a lot of others that we're not even going to look at in this video. But I do welcome you to explore these when you have a second. So first, what we're going to do is let's go ahead and put a label in here, because you want to think of a label as a way to put writing on the window so the user knows what you're going to be typing into. Okay. So for instance, I'm going to make a first JLabel, drag it over. So you just literally, and I'll do that again just to show you. You're just going to literally click on it and drag it over, and you kind of place it where you want. So I'm going to place mine right about there. Now, it obviously can be moved, and you're going to notice there's going to be some tips to actually, give it some locking functions here for you. So like it's giving you an idea about how far you are left, right, top, and bottom now. Okay. Let's say I don't want it to say JLabel. I'm going to want the user to type in their name. So what you can do is, if you right-click on it, there's an Edit Text option. So go ahead and click that. This will now let you change the text in here. So I want to say, type in your full name. And I'll put a colon, kind of like, after that, I want you to actually write something in there. Okay. And if you click off of it, you'll notice now you have a gray window that just says full name colon. And again, you can always use the preview button to be like, oh, hey, look, that's exactly what I just have right there. It's exactly what I expect when we run the program. Okay. So it says full name. Now, we'd like someone to be able to type in their full name. So another thing that we can add in here is a text field. So we're going to drag over a text field just like we dragged over. Now look at this. This is really nice about the interface of NetBeans. It's giving me these underlined dashes. They're kind of telling me how what is becoming fixed. So right now you might notice that the line seems to be underneath the full name and at the bottom of my text field kind of highlight box. That's kind of anchoring the two to the bottom of their actual size. Whereas a lot of times you actually might want the text to be actually anchored to each other on the same line. And that's what, when I move it down, that's what they anchor to now. It's sometimes frustrating because there are times where you want your text to be just a little bit above or below for some reason. And unfortunately, it doesn't give you that exact area. In fact, it even gives you some spacing things. It's like, okay, sure, look how close you're getting here. Okay. So I'm going to just let it with my highest spacing possible. And so now you see it says it's got full name and J text field. Okay. Now, what we want to do is you can do one of two things. You can edit this text just like the other one. Right click, edit text. And you can say, fill in your name. You could do that, and you might notice it auto sizes. And so that would tell the user to fill in their name there. We could also make it blank, so we could edit it and make it blank. Notice, oh man, that's so small now. So what you could do is, if you want to leave it blank, you can actually size it up some. And now it gives them some space. Maybe you want to give them a lot of space because they have a big name. Okay. What they can type in there is actually a lot longer than what's even showing, but it at least gives them that little window into seeing what they can type. Okay. So let's take a second to take a look at what's going on behind the scenes now. So let's go to the source and see what's happened. So right now, we know that we want to find things that are familiar to us. First off, we can see user interface extends the JFrame. So we know this is an inherited demo. So it inherits from the JFrame. We have a constructor here, and all the constructor does is call init components. So let's go find init components. Wow. Man, look at that. Init components. It must be an inherited method. So all that does is that's going to initialize some components for us and get them into where we want them to be. Okay. So that's all we have at the moment. We don't have anything special. You might notice that there are some pluses here. Like for instance, when I click on that, there's all this code. We'll take a look at that in another video. This is about setting up looks and feels. You might notice here that we have this generated code bubble up here. Click that. Whoa, look, there's that init components. Oh, it could have been an inherited method, but it's not. It's actually something that's belonging to this object itself, or this class, I should say. And every object gets created gets its own method. So this is where this has text field, Jlabel. You can see it makes them for me. It sets the name. Hey, I set that, and it knows to do that here. A lot of extra stuff here about setting layouts and positioning them correctly, setting sizes and things like that. You might see things like vertical groups. All that we're doing here is just making sure it looks like the way it should. Okay, but notice if you try to type it here, it doesn't work. NetBeans, this is supposed to be, this area is kind of boxed off because this is the area that NetBeans modifies to make our interface look good. Okay, so generally you just kind of close this up and we don't look at it. Okay, so those are kind of your main areas right now. Okay, you can look at them. Anything that's not in those areas, in these gray areas, you can actually change. For this demo, we will most likely not do that. Okay, so let's go back to design. And let's say we want this person to be able to type in their name. They should be able to tell us what degree they got, and then they're going to be able to save that data. Okay. So, well, let's see. We want they can get a bachelor's, an associate, a master's, or a PhD. That's a lot of options. We could do that with like a radio button, or we could do that just with like a combo box or like a drop-down box. Okay. So let's make a drop-down box. So we have a drop-down box, and we align that so it's kind of in line with the text field ahead of it. It says item 1. So if you look on this, you can right-click on it, but boy, there's no edit text on this one. Huh. Man, that's weird. Well, on this one, what you want to do is click on it, and we're going to look at the properties of this combo box. Under the model, you'll see something kind of familiar. Oh, hey, look, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. If you want to inspect a property more, click on the 3 dots box, and here's where you can actually change the names here. So We can change it to associates. We can change this to a bachelor's of science. We can change this to a master's of arts. And we can change this to a PhD. And we can add more too, EDD, whatever will work. And hit OK. And you can see it already changed it for us. Okay. Again, this is modified stuff inside of our source code. So if we take a look at our source code, we now see that we have a combo box. But we notice that these names are really not helpful. Like if you're going to actually write code that's going to modify some of these things, JComboBox1 is not very descriptive. JLabel1, JTextField1. These aren't very descriptive variable names. And we can't change them here. So whenever you want to change the name of a variable that something actually is referencing, you right click on it. So let's, like, instead of this calling this JLabel1, we should probably call something more like obvious, like, I don't know, name label. So let's right click on it and click change variable name. So now I can change this to name label. I can do the same thing on our text box. Change variable name. Name box. Or name field. I like it better. Yeah, name field. Makes it a happy little box. Then we're going to change this one, and this is going to be degree chooser. And hit OK. And so now if we go look at our source code, we can see all the references have changed. Okay? Which is excellent, because now if we have to write code, which we're going to be doing at some point, we're going to want to make sure we know these things better than JLabel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I would do JLabel 42 because that would give you the answer. Okay, again, let's just see if this is looking correctly. Okay, click on the preview. Hey, this looks good. Hey, I can even interact with it. Pretty neat, and I can change that all up. All right. Well, this just says associates out of nowhere. Boy, we need something to make that descriptive. What did I do here? Oh, yeah, let's have a label. Yeah. Without a label, it doesn't look very good. So let's drag a label in here. Let's change its variable name, because this is going to be for the degree label. And we got to change its, I got to edit the text. Maybe if I right click on edit text, yeah. Degree awarded. And there it goes. Look, it even kind of, since it knows these things are anchored, look, it actually keeps the anchoring identical for these two. Specifically so, you get your fields to look very good. And then we'll want them to save, let's say we want them to save this, so let's go with a regular old button. And let's put that on the bottom right here, because I like saves on the bottom right. Again, this is going to be our save button, so let's change the variable name to a save button. Let's change its actual text to say save. And then we now have a save button. Let's preview it. Okay. Roger Bobcat got an educational doctorate, and now the save can be clicked. Okay, you can even see it get clicked. We'll learn more later about what you can do with that. Okay. So now let's say you actually want to run your demo. Okay. NetBeans does create the source code for you to actually have a post.void main string args. So you technically do not need to have a second Java, but we know from a lot of times that there are a lot of times where you're going to want to create different frames. So it's probably better to have one other file that does all that. So just to show you, you can run user interface. It will boot up, and we will get a Java user interface, and there it works. Okay, looks really nice. So hello there, and hello there got a BS and save. Okay, don't do anything, but we can tell the interface works. Okay, well, what if I actually want to trigger this from somewhere else? Well, it's the same thing. It's pretty much the same way as we do anything else. So we want to create this object first. Okay, so we want to create a user interface object equals a new user interface. And there were no parameters in it. Okay. Now to show it, what we want to do is we just want to say UI dot set visible to true. We're telling it to set visible. There used to be an old method called .show, but that's been deprecated, and you should not try to use that because that will be actually removed from the Java code at some point. Okay. So now let's check this out. GUI demo, run file. And there it is. Looks a little different than the other one. That's because their code and the way they invoke it is a little bit different than ours, and that's okay. Right? But we can still interact with it. So we could do Darth Vader, and then Darth Vader obviously got a master's in arts. You know, it takes a lot of skill to swing that lightsaber and hit things. So this should conclude everything that we need to learn in this demonstration. You should definitely try to play around with your interfaces and play with some of these things on your palette and try to understand them a little bit better, because in the next video we're going to take a look at how do we actually get these things to work together with actual programs we've written already. Okay? All right, thank you for your time.